All right, hello everyone. Welcome to online lecture 9, Writing the Introduction. So as you know, writing the introduction will be one of the next steps that you take in this course. It's coming together after you have an approved hypothesis. And there will be a rubric as well for writing the introduction, but today is kind of giving you a little bit of the background to it. So that's the goal. Okay. So here is the introduction in 5 steps. Now you're going to use the funnel approach, which basically means you're going to go from broad to specific, just like a funnel would, right? It starts wide and then it narrows down. So that's how you're going to approach this task. So the first thing you're going to do is establish the topic. What is being studied? Quick, concise, right? I want to remind you that you're doing this introduction for a poster. And so you're going to be limited in the number of words. In fact, you're going to be limited to 175 to 225 words. That's going to be your range that you're going to want to hit in, okay? So you're going to want to be quick and concise when you can be. The next thing you want to do is provide the significance. Why is it important? Why is it important? Okay. The next thing is to review the research literature. What have the experts already established? This will be the longest section of your introduction. Okay, this is where you're going to put all or at least most of your citations, of your references, right? Where you actually found what the literature has said. Okay. Next, you're going to point out the gap. Now, this sometimes is one of the harder parts for a student, and basically what you're trying to do is show what is missing. What are you doing in your study that no one else has done before? What's the motivation for this study? Okay, so that kind of can be more complicated if you were doing a real study with real data and you were limited to working with college students at Westchester, but you're not, remember? So you can say that what's missing is that no one's ever used a sample size of this that is as large as your sample size. You could use a very large sample size. Or you could point out that no one has used this particular measure before, or no one has combined a certain number of measures in the way that you're combining them. So there's a lot of possibilities here for you in terms of what you're contributing to the literature with the study that no one has contributed before. Now, having said that, this also will probably be quick. I'd say a sentence, no more than 2. And then finally, you reveal the research hypothesis. You go and you say the hypothesis for this study is, or the research hypothesis is, and you lay it out there. Okay. So again, most of these, the establishing the topic, providing significance, 1 to 2 sentences. Your research literature is the longest part, and then pointing out the gap and revealing the research hypothesis should also be 1 to 2 sentences apiece, and most likely 1 for most of these. Okay, and I'm going to show you an example of how someone did exactly these 5 steps in a little bit. Okay. So now I'd like to give you a few tips for the introduction section, and it's actually 10 tips. First, wherever possible, use the active versus passive voice. Okay, so instead of saying a lot of it would have been possible to, just be more direct. Just be more direct. The hypothesis will show, boom. Or the hypothesis is, excuse me, this research will show, etc. Formal tone, so do not use I, we, don't use those kind of pronouns. Verb tense, verb tense. Everything but the research literature piece, everything but step 3 in our last slide should be in the present tense or the future tense. Step 3 should be in the past tense. So the literature review has already happened, right? People have already conducted these studies. That's what step 3 is. But everything else is going to happen. You're proposing this. Now, at the end of your study, much later on, you might switch some of this around to the past tense because you'll already have conducted it. But for now, you want it in present or future tense. Okay. Do not use contractions. Okay. That also goes along with formal tone, but I thought I'd mention it separately. Avoid overly long sentences and paragraphs and overly complex sentences. So again, you're going to sell your writing by being clear, concise, direct. That's what you want to go for in this class for this kind of project. Okay. And don't forget to do your citations and references in APA style. And then, and of course, we did go over some good resources, and they're in your syllabus as well, as to where you can find information about citations and references in APA style. Remember, you're not using footnotes here. You're using internal citations and references at the end. Okay. And then 8, 9, and 10 are proofread, 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 because if you remember, this is not a long piece. So if you take the time to read it out loud, especially if you have someone to read to, if not, you know, use a mirror, use what you like. But really, if you take the time to go through it a couple times, read it through, you will find your own errors, most likely. Okay. So sometimes I know you can get kind of overly saturated with it, and that's why I say if you can find someone else to read it to, it could be really helpful. They might catch something you missed, but in general, even you reading it aloud should catch a lot. Okay. All right. So I wanted to give you a few humorous overcomplication examples. Where, you know, the person could have said something a lot simpler, a lot more directly than they did here. So let's look at them. It is requested that any employee departing this storage room ascertain that all illumination is extinguished. And what are they trying to say? Turn out the light. Okay. The proprietor of this business establishment is at present elsewhere enjoying a midday meal. Or alternatively, we could say, out to lunch. The surface of this wall is at present covered with a newly applied coloring matter, not at the desired stage of dryness. Wet paint. It is fruitless to become lachrymose over precipitately departed lactate fluid. Don't cry over spilled milk. And finally, it is fruitless to attempt to indoctrinate a superannuated canine with innovative manners. And this one is, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Okay, so like I said, if try to think about being more direct. I'm not saying you can't use any of your academic style. It is a formal tone. It is that kind of document, but it also pays off to be direct. Okay, so let's look at this example. So I'm going to go through it with you. Now, this is a very good example of how to approach an introduction. I'm going to tell you, because I am giving this example and it's fully written out. I hope this wasn't your interest, because I'm not going to have people work on this particular small area of research, but it is really nice, I think, sometimes to actually see a fully written out introduction, and I think it's worth it to give up one small area of research to do so. So let's take a look at it. I'll tell you what's very good. I'll tell you what I might have looked at for improvements. So the title is Functionality of Working Memory in Athletes. Since sports are physically demanding, many athletes experience injuries throughout their careers, especially concussions. Topic, done. All right, we know we're studying sports and concussions. At least we know that much. Concussions deteriorate the individual's working memory, which is used in many aspects of daily life. Deficits in working memory would impair functions like concentration and information recall. Importance, done. And we even have a citation here, Baddeley, 1998. Athletes with damaged working memories would tend to be unfocused and unaware of their surroundings while playing, which could lead to further injury and possibly more concussions. Now, this also goes to importance of it, the significance of the topic. I like it. The author probably didn't need that sentence, or could have made it shorter and saved some space for something else later on. Okay. But not bad at all. Maybe we could have condensed just a little bit here. Okay. Now we're getting into the literature review. Previous studies have supported the idea that brain injuries can have an effect on cognitive processes after the initial concussion symptoms disappear. Detweiler et al., 2014, Sinopoli et al., 2014. One study in particular showed a relationship between a condition called cortical thinning and diminished memory abilities in soccer players. Coerti et al., 2015. Instead of focusing on one sport such as soccer, this study looked at athletes playing a variety of sports. This research, unlike similar studies that looked at only professional athletes or children, examined athletes at the college level. So look what she does here. She gets in the additional 3 references that she needs, and I might say you probably could have even squeezed in 1 or 2 more. It would have been nice, but you got in the 4 that you really need. So that's great. My only real criticism here is that you used et al. The author used et al. As opposed to writing out all the authors. Now, et al. Is fair game once you have already written out the authors once, but until you do that, you don't really want to go to et al. Now, having said that, I was a little forgiving here because I do recognize it's hard to get in all those author names when you have such a short piece that you're trying to write. Okay, and then at the bottom, instead of, these last 2 sentences focus on the gap. Okay, now let's go to the last page. This research seeks to investigate if athletes that play high-contact sports experience a cognitive disadvantage in working memory processes when compared to athletes in low-contact sports and non-athletes. The hypothesis of the study is as the amount of physical contact an athlete is subjected to increases, their functionality of working memory decreases. Very nice hypothesis is here. This sentence, was it totally necessary? Maybe not. Maybe we could have spent that a little bit more on the sentence this research seeks. Maybe we didn't need that. Maybe we could have spent that in doing a little bit more lit review. I might have argued for that, but again, it certainly is a very well done piece here, and I'm just being very picky to help you write the best possible piece you can. Okay. All right. Here are the references that she uses. Now, this is APA style version 6, not 7, so please bear that in mind if you are looking at this for some way forward. Okay, so make sure you look at APA style 7, version 7. Okay, so that's what I really wanted to show you with the introduction. I'm also going to ask that you be sure to look at the rubric, and be sure to also look at how we're setting this up and how we're doing the dates. Okay, so you'll notice the draft is due one day and then the finals due another. So what happens between the draft and the final? Well, you're going to get to actually get some feedback from students in class. We'll be devoting an activity day to you actually getting some feedback, reading it through with whoever you're paired up with, and giving each other some helpful hints. And then from that point, you can actually make it into your final version that you're turning in. But then you'll be getting feedback from me. So you still get another opportunity to modify it before your final poster's turned in. Okay, so you get a couple of chances here to modify based on student feedback, based on my feedback. Okay. Also, make sure you, once it's posted, you look at the rubric for this and that you review exactly how you want to do the formatting and those sort of things. Okay, so we'll review this in class if you have any questions. That's all I have for now. Be well, stay safe, and I will talk to you next time.